Helo, noswaith dda, good evening, croeso I amser stori y fenter. Welcome to the Venture Story Time. Today is Sunday the 12th of April and of course it's Easter Sunday, so Pasc Hapus, happy Easter to everybody out there in the Venture community. I hope you've had a wonderful day with lots of chocolates. Not such nice weather today, a little bit of rainfall, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. Also on this day, in 1981, we had the first launch of a space shuttle. In 1992, Euro Disney, or Disneyland Paris as we all know it now, officially opened. And today is also International Day of Human Spaceflight, or Yuri's Night, or World Space Party, that sounds cooler, which is an annual celebration of the anniversary of the first human spaceflight by Yuri Gagarin in 1961. So there you have it, that is the 12th of April, and we're here of course for story time. So please, if you're joining us, please say hello in the comments, please like and share this video so that other people have the opportunity to join in as well. And of course, if you're ready, get yourselves comfy. Grab yourselves a nice drink. I've got a pan of the day, a cup of tea tonight, and we'll crack on with chapter 7, The Punishment. So we've met Dinah Glass, and she is being fostered by Mr. and Mrs. Hunter, and she also lives with Lloyd and Harvey, and they all attend a very strange school where everybody is really well behaved. Everybody straightens their hats and combs their hair at the gate, and they all stand round in little circles reciting calculations and dates of history. Also, Harvey and Lloyd and a small group don't go, but Dinah goes to assembly where they're all talked to by the headmaster, and something strange goes on. Now, Dinah wanted to find out what's been going on, so she decided that she was going to cause some trouble. And she woke up one morning and there was snow on the ground. So she thought, I know, I'm going to have a snow fight. But Harvey was so excited by the snow that he threw it first, which meant that Harvey, Dinah and Lloyd all got in trouble. And that's where we left last time, with Harvey, Dinah and Lloyd all waiting in front of the prefects. And this is called The Punishment. So I think we're about to find out what's going to happen. Like I say, don't forget to comment, let us know you're there, and we'll give you a shout out at the end. I can see Louise has joined us already. Hello, Louise. Okay, so as Rose, that's one of the scary prefects, as Rose began to call out orders, the neat rows of children formed and filed into the building. Lloyd, Harvey and Dinah stood awkwardly, not looking at each other, until the whole playground was empty and they were alone, gazing up at the prefects, who stood like a row of iron statues. Jeff, one of the other prefects, stared down at them and chanted, "It is forbidden to waste time by playing in the playground." "It is forbidden," Rose went on, "to make a mess of your school uniform." "You must be punished," Sarah said. "In a suitable manner," finished off Simon, smiling slightly. Drawing together, the prefects whispered for a moment, and then Rose turned to them again. "Go inside," she rapped out. "Take off your hats and coats and gloves, then come back here." As they walked towards the cloakroom, Dinah whispered to Lloyd, "What will happen? What will they do?" "I don't know," he said sourly, "but whatever it is, it'll be all your fault. I wish you'd never come." "No, it's my fault," Harvey said in a miserable voice. "I threw the snowballs, and whatever they do, it'll be terrible." When they came out of the door again, 4 of the prefects had gone. Rose was standing looking out over the playground with a pleased smile on her face, and Jeff was by her side, holding 3 long-handled brooms. Rhiannon's joined us. Hello, play with Rhiannon. "Now," he said in a silky voice, "you're very lucky. We've decided to be kind to you." Lloyd and Harvey looked uneasily at each other. "Yes," Rose's smile broadening, Because you're so fond of playing with the snow, we're going to let you have some more of it. Jeff held out the brooms. You will each take one of these, and you will sweep all the snow from the playground into a heap. Then, he looked at Rose with a grin, you will make the whole heap into a pile of snowballs. For a second, Harvey looked perplexed, but Lloyd burst out, Well, aren't you going to let us put on our coats and things? Rose went on smiling. Certainly not. But you can't do that. Harvey's got a weak chest. He'll be ill. Silence! Suppose we say no, asked Dinah in a stiff voice. Rose and Jeff looked at her as if she had said something unbelievably stupid. Together they chanted, The prefects are the voice of the headmaster. They must be obeyed. Then Jeff thrust the brooms at them. Get sweeping! Resigned, Lloyd and Harvey trailed off down the steps, dragging their brooms after them. Dinah lingered rebelliously for a second or two, then joined them at the far end of the playground. Let's do it as quickly as we can, she said. Perhaps that'll keep us warm. Huh, snorted Lloyd. Don't know why you're so cheerful. None of this would have happened if you hadn't started talking about snowball fights. He banged his broom crossly into the snow and began to sweep, pushing it into a great white mound in front of him. For the first 10 minutes or so, it was not too bad. The exercise kept them fairly warm, but then the wind started to blow, scattering the snow as they swept it and freezing their fingers. I'm so cold, said Harvey plaintively. We're only halfway across. We'll never get it all swept. Don't give up now, Lloyd said grimly. This is the easy part. Just you wait until we start on the snowballs. Dinah shuddered at the thought as the wind whipped through her thin school skirt. Then she found that she could not stop shivering. Her whole body was shaking and her teeth were chattering together uncontrollably. She put down her broom for a moment to clap her arms around herself for a bit of warmth. Instantly, from the building behind them came an irate rapping. Turning, she saw Rose gesturing furiously through the window. She picked up her broom again and began to sweep harder, trying to ignore the shaking. At last, the snow was piled into a single heap, almost as tall as Harvey. The three of them laid their brooms down at one side and stared at it. I don't think I can do it, Harvey said woefully. My hands are hurting. Lloyd watched him anxiously. His face had a bluish tinge and he was starting to breathe wheezily. Why don't you stop, Dinah said. Tell them you won't do it. I don't suppose the headmaster will be really angry. He must see. Then her teeth rattled together so hard that she could not go on speaking. Lloyd and Harvey said nothing. They just looked at her as though she were completely idiotic and bent down to start making snowballs. All right, she said crossly. Be like that. I bet I can make snowballs faster than you. As soon as she touched the snow, she knew that it was going to be a nightmare. Her hands were already painfully cold, but at least they'd been dry up until now. The snow made them wet and the wind cold, whipping across them. They stung so that they felt almost as if they were burning. Anxiously, she wondered how long it would take before she got frostbite and her fingers would turn black and drop off. It would not have been quite so bad if Lloyd and Harvey had been sympathetic, but neither of them spoke to her. Lloyd was making snowballs in a frenzy, trying to get through the huge heap as quickly as possible. If he looked at her at all, it was only to pull a disgusted face, and Harvey had started to cry. Without stopping work, he was sobbing with pain, his face growing red and raw now as the wind scoured the tears from his round cheeks. I can't, murmured a voice in Dinah's head. I can't. But all the time, mechanically, she went on making snowballs until it seemed that she would never stop. As if she would go on until the end of the world, stooping, seizing a handful of snow, squashing it together in her agonised hands and dropping it into the pile. They seemed to have been there for about 100 years when Lloyd said suddenly, 2 or 3 more each and we've finished. Glancing sideways at his watch, Dinah saw that it was not yet 12 o'clock. Gritting her teeth, she scrunched together the last couple of handfuls of snow and flung them triumphantly onto the top of the pile. Oh, that's it. We've finished. Let's get inside and get warm. Not yet, Lloyd said bitterly. Look, they're coming to inspect us. Sure enough, the prefects, all 6 of them, were trooping down the steps from the school, marching in perfect time. They walked across the playground and stood in a half circle around Lloyd, Harvey and Dinah. Not a very tidy heap of snowballs, Rose said grudgingly. She looked sideways at Jeff, and his spotty face suddenly creased into a leering smile. But you must have enjoyed yourselves, he said. Since you're so fond of snow, do you think they've had enough yet, Rose? She leered back at him. Surely not. Not when they like it so much. Without warning, the line of prefects surged forward in unison, their hands outstretched. Lloyd, Harvey and Dinah were each seized by 2 prefects who spun them round and knocked them forward, face down, into the snow. As Dinah's face crashed into the hard, bald snow, her first feeling was one of despair. Snow slammed up her nose, into her eyes, and all down her front, soaking her clothes. It seemed like the last straw, and she nearly burst into tears. But by the time she stood up, she was furious. Furious and incredulous. Leaping to her feet, she began to yell at the prefects. That's too much! You can't do that! I shall go and tell the headmaster. He'll punish you. You've got no right to treat us like that. Very softly, Jeff started to laugh. And Rose, shaking with merriment, pointed a finger towards the school, where the window of the headmaster's office faced them. At the window was a pale face, its eyes hidden behind dark glasses. It stared out over the playground, apparently without expression. So he knows, does he? Dinah said, her mouth set stubbornly. Well, I'm not scared of him. Even if the rest of you are, I shall go and tell him just what I think of him for letting something like this happen to a boy as little as Harvey. Her feet sounded so loud on the clear tarmac. She stamped across the playground and into the school, carried along by the force of her cold rage. Without stopping to consider what she was doing, she marched up to the door of the headmaster's office and hammered on it with both fists. Nothing happened. Curiously, she caught at the handle and rattled it, but the door was locked and so heavy that it hardly moved. I know you're in there, she shouted. I saw you at the window, and I think it's disgusting. Fancy letting the prefect bully a little boy like Harvey. It might make him ill. You're inhuman. She paused. No sound came from behind the door, and for a second she felt completely helpless. Then at last her brain began to work. She smiled triumphantly and went on speaking in a quieter voice. Anyway, you won't get away with this. Even headmasters aren't allowed to do things like that. When we get home, we'll all tell Mr. and Mrs. Hunter, and there'll be a scandal. You'll be prosecuted. There was still no sound, but she did not care now that she'd worked out what to do next. Her fingers were starting to hurt as the warmth of the building reached them, so with a final thump on the door, she began to run down the corridor towards the cloakrooms. If only she could wash them in warm water, she would feel better. And if there was something hot for lunch, even Harvey might be all right. She was making so much noise that she did not hear the office door open behind her. She did not look over her shoulder and see the pale face which stared after her. If she had, she would have been puzzled, because the face was smiling. "So clever, Miss Glass," murmured the headmaster. "You have a soft spot for Harvey Hunter, have you? You're ready to protect him. Well, that might come in very useful. Yes, indeed. I must think about that." His smile broadened. "After this afternoon's assembly." And as he turned away, he laughed, softly and evilly. Lloyd burst in through the back door of the kitchen, 100 yards ahead of Harvey and Dinah. "Mum! Mum! Where are you?" Mrs. Hunter emerged from the hall. "Goodness me! What a fuss! The end of the world, at least, I should think. Whatever is the matter?" "It's what happened at school today." Lloyd slumped down into a chair. "It was simply terrible." Mrs. Hunter suddenly stopped looking sympathetic. "Now, Lloyd, I hope this isn't going to be another one of your silly stories. You know what trouble we've had in the past with your lies." "It's different this time," Lloyd said. "Dinah will tell you that it's true, and you'll believe her, won't you?" He turned round and waved at Harvey and Dinah, who were coming through the door. "Well, Dinah certainly looks more calm than you do," Mrs. Hunter says. "But she knows too," Lloyd yelled. "She'll tell you." "Oh, don't shout, dear." "Oh, why don't you ask her?" "Yes," said Harvey excitedly. "Ask Dinah what happened at school today." "You'll believe her," Lloyd said bitterly. Dinah was frowning, looking at the three of them in bewilderment. "Well, dear," Mrs. Hunter said gently, "tell me, what happened at school today?" In a perfectly calm, even voice, Dinah said, "At school this morning, Harvey made snowballs and we all had a snow fight. It was super. The headmaster made sure we were all dressed up warmly in our hats and gloves and coats, and he gave us drinks of hot black currant when we came inside." "What?" Lloyd stared at her. Harvey looked appalled. "Dinah!" Mrs. Hunter smiled comfortably. "It all sounds very nice." "But you don't understand," Lloyd exploded. "It's not true. It wasn't like that at all. Wait, now, be quiet." All at once, Mrs. Hunter was very angry. "It's always the same, Lloyd. You and Harvey come back from school with silly, unbelievable stories, and whenever I ask any of the other children, I find out it's all lies. I'm not going to make a fool of myself by complaining again. I don't think it's funny, even if you do." "It's not meant to be funny." Lloyd glared at Dinah. "She knows that. She's a filthy, foul traitor. She's the one who's telling lies. And that's enough." Mrs. Hunter banged her hand on the table. "I don't blame Dinah for not wanting to join in with your silly games. You've been unpleasant to her ever since she came, and I won't have it. This is her home now, as well as yours, and you'll just have to get used to it. But not another word." "It doesn't matter, Elle," Harvey said miserably. "We ought to have known it would be like this. It's always like this. 200 people say that we're lying, whatever we say. We can't do anything about it." "Well, we can refuse to speak to traitors," Lloyd said hotly. "Come on, H. Let's go to the playroom. There's a bad smell in this kitchen." He stamped out. Harvey stood in the doorway for a moment, looking at Dinah. "How could you?" he said reproachfully, "when you know what it was like?" And that's the end of chapter 7. Can you believe it? So I'm guessing afternoon assembly, Dinah goes in, and it's all the woo hypnotism again with the headmaster. Well, chapter 8's called The Prefect's Meeting. So I wonder what's going to happen in the next chapter. So there we go. Let's have a look who's been watching with us. Louise Haggerty, hi. What's this? 35 years ago tomorrow, I was born. Well, Pembroke Happis for tomorrow, Louise. And if any of you have got birthdays coming up or know of anybody else's birthday that's coming up, please let us know so that we can wish them all a very happy birthday. Nicholas James is watching. Angela Logester, hello Angela. Oh, one of our student play workers from many moons ago. Playworker Rhiannon, hello to you. Sambo Burgess, hello Sam, I hope you're well. Captain Chris is watching as well, hello. Gemma Kavanagh, oh my god, I used to love that, I know. I used to love it on, it was 96 or something like that. Daniel Bright, hello Daniel. Steve Richard, hello Steve. And Jeanette Ann Cartwright. Oh, lovely of you all to join us. I hope you've enjoyed this chapter of the Demon Headmaster. You can catch up with the earlier chapters and also The Worst Witch and the Iron Man on this page or on our YouTube channel. But I hope you will join us next time for chapter 8. So all that leaves me to say is diolch am wylio. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Breuddwyddion dda, sweet dreams, nos da, good night, and hopefully I will see you all soon. Ta-ta rwan.